praise the Lord, and pass the ammunition. It's time for the GunGuyTV podcast.
Hi, this is Joel Persinger. I'm the Gun Guy. Thank you very much for all of your help and support of GunGuyTV and the fact that you watch my videos on YouTube and the other places where they are and listen to this podcast. I got to tell you, it is a great thing to know that when I do these things, you're listening and you're watching. I feel like I'm achieving something that way. Otherwise, as I've said many times, I'd just be talking to myself. Well, on this podcast, we're going to start off with the last of the SHOT Show interviews. This one is with James from the Reloader Network. I'm an avid reloader, and so it was a very interesting interview for me. I have a feeling it might be for you as well, particularly if you're in a restrictive state like California, where reloading is one of the key ways you can make sure that you have plenty of ammunition. So we'll be talking to James from the Reloader Network at the first part of the interview, which is going to be out there free for public consumption on your favorite podcast player, and then we will post a video version on YouTube and the other video distribution places. In the second part of the podcast, I'll be talking about a couple of things. One is a book that was recommended to me that I've started reading called Dark Agenda, The War to Destroy Christian America by David Horowitz. Now, I am a Christian, and this book is important to me as a result, but nevertheless, even if you aren't a Christian or you're a person that doesn't have a particular faith that you want to follow, it's still a very interesting book because you are obviously a Second Amendment supporter and a supporter of the Bill of Rights and the United States Constitution, or you wouldn't be listening to this podcast. I'll be talking about this book a little bit and urging you to read it because it will explain to you precisely how our country is being systematically dismantled by the left. I'll also be talking about my first day on the range since COVID-19. That'll be in the second part of the podcast, which is available on Patreon only. Now, if you would like to support the podcast, you can do that a few different ways. One is to use our Amazon link when shopping Amazon. It's very simple to do, and it costs you absolutely nothing. If you go to our website at GunGuy.tv, you can also go to GunGuyTV.com or GunGuyTV.net. It'll all take you to the same place. And then look for the banner ad at the top for Amazon. It's a little banner ad right at the top of the website there. If you click on that, it will take you to Amazon's page through our Amazon affiliate account. And then once you're on Amazon's page, just bookmark that page. And every time you go to Amazon, if you go grab that bookmark, then anything you buy at Amazon, whether it's toothpaste, toilet paper, or gun stuff, doesn't matter. We get a little commission for it, and it costs you absolutely nothing. In that way, you can pick Amazon's pocket a little bit and support GunGuyTV. All right, now enough about that. Let's get started with the interview with James from the Reloader Network. I'm excited that we've got James Guy from the Reloaders Network here to talk with us at SHOT Show, primarily because I'm a reloader.
Indeed.
And, and being in California, reloading is the magic pill to have a lot of ammo and not have to go through the background check all the time because they're not yet regulating.
For most folks, it's a hobby, but it may become a survival skill for some at some point.
Where it became a survival skill for me is that Nick was a competitive shooter for many years, competitive in shotgun sports, and went through so many shotgun shells in practice and competitions all the time that the only sane way I could do it and actually not be poor as a church mouse was to be in the garage loading.
Right.
And it was a great experience. I mean, we went all over the place, and he competed all over the place. He was fourth in the state one year in the grand, whatever not the nationals, but the state competitions. We went out. He doesn't know. He was a young guy. He didn't care. Hey, I get to shoot, Dad. I don't care where I rank.
I got trigger time. Life is good.
It really was, yeah.
Yeah, you were right behind Josh, who I think skunked you by one bird or two birds or something.
It's funny how in that competition, the only person I cared about beating was the one who beat me. But I beat a whole bunch of other people who are like, why is this kid beating me?
That's because he beats you all the time, and sometimes by a squeaker.
Yes, all the time.
But, so that's where I actually got into reloading was that. And then since then, I reload rifle, pistol, shotgun, and primarily I reload and I hand load. As you know, there's a difference.
Certainly.
I reload for quantity because I want to go to the range and burn up things. But I also am kind of a bit of a gun nerd at this point, a reloading nerd. So I hand load for this rifle because I've found the best load for that, or I'm tweaking a load or whatever. I love doing.
Yeah, I think a lot of us the continual testing and seeing what we can make it do is as entertaining as putting holes in a target.
Yeah, it actually is. In fact, one of the guys, Dennis, I'm not going to say his last name, he might not want me to, but one of the guys I shoot with all the time, whose name is Dennis, is a retired Border Patrol agent. He's at the P2K Range a lot. His whole hobby at this point is to see how close to stacking one round in the same hole as the other one can he possibly get by tweaking a load one way or the other.
Yeah, if you're hunting, an 8-inch group at 100 yards is probably sufficient for large game. But, if you can make it smaller, that's fun.
It has to be smaller? I have to shoot better than that? No, I'm kidding.
I hope not, because as my eyes age, the groups grow.
So you and I know a little bit about what's going on. You know a lot about it. I know a little bit about the Reloader Network, but I'd be willing to bet you there's a whole lot of folks don't. So why don't you tell me about it, and let's clear up the misconceptions, if any, or just inform people who may never have heard of it.
Certainly, and I appreciate that. So we grew out of, about a couple years ago, what was that, March of 18, YouTube published their policies on content featuring firearms. And at that time, it included language that talked about you can't show content that shows how to manufacture ammunition. And we had no idea how YouTube was going to interpret that. We figured it would probably be interpreted different ways on different days. And so is that reloading? Is that bullet casting? A lot of us that are involved with that are bullet casters as well. And so we saw the community starting to scramble, not knowing what their future on YouTube was. And part of that scramble, we saw folks looking for different hosting sites to host their content. Or do we go to Dailymotion or Vimeo? There was a number of sites that stood up around that time to host video. We've seen some of those sites since shut down. We've seen, folks have ended up on different sites that you and I have probably never heard of. And the viewers, as we know, YouTube's the number 2 website in the world right now, I believe, for traffic. And
I believe so. I think Google's number 1.
And they're worth $1 trillion. They have the resources to do what they want. And so as I saw these sites standing up, I wasn't interested in building another site that hosted video. That takes a lot of time and money and effort to do in a way that handles the bandwidth in the video properly. A lot of folks said go to full 30. Well, full 30 invites people. It's not open to everybody. And so what I did is I stood up a site called the Reloaders Network where it didn't matter where folks hosted their video. We could show it there. We could embed it there. And if you want to post your content on YouTube, that's great. We can show it there, and people can leave their likes and their comments and that sort of thing. And then if YouTube deletes your video, and at this point, they have deleted hundreds of reloading and especially bullet casting videos.
Well, I've deleted a couple of mine where I was doing reloading. So yeah,
right, and
you cannot get. And I'm not picking on YouTube here. I mean, they're a company; they have a right to make the policies they want to make. But you can't get I have not been able to get a straight answer out of them as to particularly why on a couple of videos, which seemed to me to fit within their guidelines, but apparently didn't.
No, absolutely.
And I don't get in the argument with them. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll post it someplace else. But you're right when you say that, it seems like it alters day to day. I'm not sure it alters day to day as much as they have so many people looking at it, so many sets of eyes that each one makes a value judgment.
Sure. Well, and so I have a lot of people say to me, what do you mean they're deleting your stuff? They can't be true. Look at all of these and they list a number of things that really shouldn't be on YouTube according to the policies, and they just sit there.
Right.
Or they'll point out, look, there's 19 other bullet casting videos. Why was yours deleted? I don't know.
I don't know either. but it happens. That's YouTube. I don't get it either, but it happens, and it happens a lot.
And my opinion, part of what they're doing is they're trying to frustrate people. I think they're trying to break people's will to post that type of content, and so people just quit or they change your content, and then YouTube didn't kick you off and make a martyr out of you. It was your decision to quit.
Right, and they do the same thing without getting too down here on new YouTube policies, really. But they do the same thing, I think, with monetization policies.
Absolutely.
They while they don't necessarily want to make the political and public effort of deleting your entire channel, they will demonetize you, hoping that will put you out of the running.
Yeah, I was demonetized about 8 months ago, and I got an email that said you've been demonetized because of harmful content. But at that time, they didn't delete any videos, so it was so harmful that they demonetized me, but not so harmful that they deleted any of it.
Right.
I have quit trying to figure out the logic of YouTube.
Yeah, it's a waste of time. Yeah,
it really is.
Hence the reason why you started another platform. It makes a lot of sense.
It is, and then there's a lot of people that want to fight YouTube and fight the policies, and I'm interested in seeing how those things come out, but I don't have the time, resources, energy, or interest in heading up that fight myself.
Right.
I want to get information about firearms and reloading and bullet casting and shooting sports and those things out to the people that's why I started my YouTube channel a year before all of this started. And so I want to keep doing that. And if I can't do it on YouTube, I have to go somewhere else.
You're listening to the GunGuyTV podcast.
So I decided to build my own website where we could show content from all these places where the viewers don't have to go to 17 different sites to follow all of these people. They can go to one place. If one of these sites shuts down or YouTube deletes a video, we just change the source of where it comes from. The viewer doesn't have to go anywhere else. They and there's nothing at that site that's behind a paywall. It's still like YouTube. It's all, you can sign up for an account so you can make comments like on YouTube, but you don't have to have an account. You can just show up and watch the content. And then in addition to video, we have blog posts. There's some podcasts there. It's primarily video. We really grew out of the YouTube audience, and at this point, we've got over 100 people contributing content.
Well, you're going to have 101 because I'm going to go over there and post my reloading videos that got deleted, and I'll stick them up there for
that's
you.
Outstanding. That's
What
outstanding.
the heck?
Now, there has been some confusion with that. Some people say, I don't understand how to post videos. Well, it's not right now. It's not open for the whole world to post content, but all you have to do is ask. And then I just adjust some permissions, and you've got the abilities to post, and life is grand. So
Now, are you hosting the videos, or are they hosting them elsewhere and posting them on your site?
So the any pictures that are uploaded as part of an article, or the comments, the video description, all of that is hosted on my server. The video itself is not. So myself right now, I'm uploading all of my videos to about 4 different sources just to.
As am I. I mean, if they're on YouTube, Vimeo, I'm trying to think now. Dailymotion, BitChute, which I have to say very carefully because I'm a Christian gentleman and I don't say such words. And then there's Gunstreamer, the Utah Gun Exchange, and I think there's one other one where we post up. I mentioned Dailymotion. And one of the reasons. What was that? Facebook. Facebook is the other one. And Facebook is always a sketchy kind of a place too. And one of the reasons I do that is because the folks that watch my channel realize if it gets deleted over here, okay, they can watch it in any of these other places.
Indeed. And that's part of the key is letting people know before you disappear off YouTube where they can find you.
Right.
You're no longer on YouTube.
Right. And at this point, YouTube has not threatened to delete me in a long, long time, but they have taken certain videos down. The nice part about what you're talking about to me is that as a result, I loved something you said. Let's say I was to post a video on your site, and all of a sudden it gets deleted off a platform. I can just go back and point it to where it is now.
Absolutely. It takes about 5 seconds to update it if it's already online somewhere else, and the viewer never knows the difference.
Because they're watching it on your network, but it's hosted someplace else.
They pull up the same page and they watch the same video.
The other thing I think that's neat, too, is that, and I don't know, maybe the average, maybe everybody understands this, but hosting video is an expensive thing to do.
Very expensive.
And part of it is the drive space, which is not horribly expensive, but it's the bandwidth.
It is. And to build it in such a way that 1,000 people can watch the same video at the same time, it's not the same as just buying an external hard drive and plugging it into your computer.
And consequently, since other people have already established those systems and they're available to us, in some sense, when you're trying to do something and you're not Microsoft or you're not Google or whatever, there's no reason to invest the money in doing that if the videos can be hosted just about any place and just link to an article or link to a page.
Absolutely.
So it's brilliant the way that you've chosen to do this. Because then they get the bandwidth, they get the accessibility of the video, but they have one place to go and it can be hosted anywhere.
And there are so many free sources being offered to host video.
Why do it?
Why invest my money in another?
Right. You don't need to be another. Exactly.
And actually, my own videos that are shown on the Reloaders Network, it's for myself, I'm under the name Loads of Bacon. That's the name of my YouTube channel, and then they're on the Reloaders Network. If you go to the Reloaders Network and watch my videos, they're hosted on Vimeo.
Yeah, and Vimeo's been very friendly to me, by the way, and they haven't given me any grief about anything.
And you won't find my videos on Vimeo. If you go on video and search, you won't find them there.
Right, because you marked them private or whatever.
Indeed. And part of that is because I don't want somebody at some point to say, hey, look, Vimeo, look what you're hosting. They do on YouTube. Yeah. And at the same time, I want to drive people to the Reloaders Network because there's a whole community of content. There's not just reloading. It's firearms. We've got guys that are competitive shooters, long-distance shooters, bullet casters. It's the whole gamut.
So are you seeing a serious growth in your
I would say we're seeing slow and steady growth. It is continuing to grow. At this point, we're not quite 2 years online. In April, it would be 2 years. And there's definitely a core portion of that community that's always there, always participating. And we see folks wander in and wander out. But, yeah, by and large, we are growing, both in number of content contributors as well as the folks viewing and commenting.
To what do you attribute the growth so far?
I can see where traffic's coming from, some of the statistics, and a lot of it's through search engines. There are some more people on YouTube that I think are starting to see, hey, my future on YouTube is limited. Personally, I think the majority of firearms content, I don't think YouTube's a viable long-term platform anymore. I think there'll always be firearms content on YouTube, but it has to pass muster for YouTube, and a lot of what we do doesn't. And so I think a lot of these folks are starting to see that, and so they're starting to let their audience know, hey, I'm still here, but come join us over there where things won't be deleted.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that a lot, too. A lot of the folks that watch our GunGuy TV on YouTube are migrating over to other platforms. They're still watching us on YouTube, but they're over on BitChute, which I'll say again very carefully, or one of the other places again, because they know that those are, I mean, the Gunstream or any of those that are firearms-centric are certainly not going to delete firearms-related content.
Indeed.
So they know it's always safe
In the
there.
fall of 2017, just because I like redundancy, I started up an account with a site called VidMe. And
I did too, and it went away, and I liked it a lot, actually.
I
was
was
a bummer.
afraid that maybe I was contributed to that because I convinced a bunch of people to show up, and a month later they shut down. And so that's when I showed up at BitChute. It was in December of 17.
You're the guy. I knew it was you.
I didn't run their business. I don't know what happened there, but I do like the redundancy and the options.
So we have a lot of it, and we even within the podcast. Hey, one of the things, I was talking to one guy that had a fairly significant YouTube channel at one point, and he was not saving his videos.
No,
he uploaded them to YouTube and then deleted them.
Ooh.
And so when YouTube threatened, his channel didn't go away, but when they threatened to delete his channel, he about had a coronary there.
I bet.
And started immediately trying to find a software that would download the things and save them.
The very first thing I did when YouTube came out with their new policies back in March of 18 was I posted a video on how to download and back up all of your content from YouTube.
Yeah, and you better do it now.
Absolutely.
Because it might not be there in 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, that's
one of
great.
the things I really appreciate about what you're doing is the fact that it's similar. It's in at a time where niche subscriptions are the thing, like Disney Plus or ESPN Plus, or there's all these different things. It's coming to a point where, and it's true. I mean, you can't. I've actually was looking at a video. I was looking at a video I think 3 weeks ago on something for just shotgun trap shooting, just technique. And I tried to look up that same video, like I think about a week or so ago, and it was gone. So I mean, so it's like, I know that if I know that going to a platform like yours, I can actually look at a video, save it, and be okay. I know I'm gonna want to go to when I go to the range, I'm gonna want to test this out, or I know that hey, you know what, I don't have to go to my dad's house and bum off his reloading stuff. I can just get my own and really learn how to set. Like it's cool that you have that platform there, and I think it's really important to have those.
Well, and I don't have any inside knowledge, but I suspect that things are going to get worse as we approach November in the 2020 election.
Oh, I would agree with you completely.
Just
bet.
a few
It's
days ago,
not going to get easier.
YouTube deleted another one of my videos that I made marked private, not hidden, but private. Back in March of 18. So
that's no longer a safeguard. I've discovered
absolutely.
that.
That's
they'll
been
get it
private,
anyway.
not accessible to anybody but myself and I guess the YouTube administrators. Private for almost 2 years, and I got an email that said, it's been flagged for review and it violates things, so we deleted it. A good buddy of mine, Mike, has a channel called Full Lead Taco, one of the most family-friendly channels you've ever seen. A guy has 2 kids. He volunteers at his church. There's no swearing. There's no nudity. There's nothing like that. I would have no problem watching his videos in front of my children. And at this point, they've deleted 34 or 35 of his videos because he likes to melt lead and turn it into cast bullets.
As if that's a really harmful thing he's doing there.
Shooting straight and always right on target. This is the GunGuy TV podcast.
Pete, aren't you shocked?
I am. And, this goes back to something you were talking about on one of the previous podcasts where the extreme on the left is not only, to use a term, demonizing anything to do with firearms, but it becomes a demonization of religion. You can't say God in the Pledge of Allegiance. You can't have prayer at school, even if the kid wants to do it by himself. You can't have any of this, and the effort to just expunge anything and everything that they don't agree with out of anything public is just amazing.
Absolutely. And
we're going down this path. I'm sorry I jumped in. We're going down this path. I'm in my 60s, and I know Pete probably remembers it too, and you may. And Nick, I don't know if you ever saw it in school or at all, but they used to show a movie called Fahrenheit 451, which is an interesting novel if you've ever read it. And that movie was shown in school specifically to illustrate a road we didn't want to go down, which was, in that movie, the society had gotten to the point where they had not only destroyed books with which people disagreed, they had destroyed all books, and they controlled all information and all thinking, and you could only access information that agreed with what the state wanted you to think, and everything else was down the tubes. Books were so illegal that the fire department was no longer there to put out fires. The fire department existed to go burn books once they were found, and they had become a law enforcement agency, the focus of which was to track down books specifically to destroy them.
I remember that well, and I've heard several liken what's going on YouTube and other places to digital book burning, and I think
that's exactly what it is.
It certainly fits.
It's exactly what it is. Yeah. And as Pete said, it's not just digital; it's everywhere and everything. And this is where I think it was Rick Travis on a previous podcast that mentioned that if we lose the Second Amendment, we lose the First Amendment too.
Absolutely.
And I commented at the time, if we lose the Second Amendment, we lose them all.
Absolutely.
I think there is a drive to, in a very real way, control not only the things we say and the things we express in one way or the other, but to control the way we think. And part of that is to excise any information, whether it's video or whatever, that disagrees with the status quo.
As I try to reason why bullet casting is so evil on YouTube, the only thing I can come up with is, well, one, the people reviewing these things have no idea what they're looking at. And two, the idea of independence and self-sufficiency is scary.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That's the only thing I can come up with. But I don't see any terrorists running around with reloaded cast lead bullets.
No. No, but you hit upon a point of self-sufficiency, which you're exactly right. It's interesting living in California that certain things within a city are illegal.
Yeah.
So, for example, in our city that I live in, it is legal to have backyard chickens, for example, because our mayor is a very conservative guy, and by and large, our city council are very conservative, and it's come up a few times where residents say, well, they shouldn't be allowed to do that because that's non-hygienic. Those chickens have not been put through the food requirement is for chickens. I have no idea what the food requirement is for chickens, but they haven't gone through. The government hasn't checked those chickens.
Put it in your neighbor's grass.
They could have diseases or whatever the case might be. And so these cities get buggy because somebody, I got to tell you, I mentioned this one time on GunGuyTV. I don't know why in comparison to something else. And I got an email from a person who told me they lived in a city where backyard gardens were being discussed by the city council to eliminate them because people should not be growing their own food. They should have to buy food at the store. So don't buy your own carrot. Don't grow your own carrots or have your own fruit trees or whatever. So this becomes I agree with you. I think in the minds of some, the fact that people can be self-sufficient, learn how to do things, know how to do things, which when I was coming up, everyone was encouraged to do.
Right.
Has now become something that is so actively opposed by many that it's shocking. And the idea that you can actually reload your own ammunition is like,
right. Well,
that's nuts.
And that's where I decided, maybe independence from YouTube is okay. I won't have the viewership I do on YouTube. I get that. There's a lot of, if you look at the view counts and that's all you're looking for, well, you should probably stay on YouTube.
Yeah, but if you're passionate about what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, I don't make a living on YouTube. I do it because I love it and because it's fun.
Absolutely.
We have a successful business,
and as
we're
we look
doing
at
fine.
Reloading and bullet casting, a lot of guys learn that from their dad or the grandpa or the old guy next door.
Right.
a lot of those dads and grandpas and old guys next door with that knowledge don't exist anymore.
No, they don't.
And so,
No.
you know, like many things, we're always only potentially one generation away from just disappearing.
Well, and I hate to I hate to raise the specter of intent here, but I think that's the intent.
Indeed.
Is to have these things disappear. Hunting, for example. I mean, Nick and I, how often do you have people, say things negative about the fact that you hunt?
Often. I couldn't think of it. I couldn't think of how.
This is a huge pause.
You horrible Bambi killer, you.
Yes, I've got. Actually, now it's not just Bambi. It's like you would shoot those animals like in like the Disney Channel animals. I'm like, no, those are cartoons. I can't shoot those.
Well, and it's interesting to look on some of these people's faces, not all, but some of them, when you start to talk about how the deer populations would actually suffer if there was no game management
I know,
and
it
all
blows
these sorts
their
of
minds.
things, and it's like you're speaking a foreign language to them. It's just they've never. It's obvious they've never processed some of those thoughts.
It's almost
Well, look
like
at
they look at you like you're spewing lies in their face.
Look at the damage of the feral pig population in Texas and Louisiana.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's
They,
enormous.
they have no limit, no tags, 24/7, 365 hunting. They eradicated 30% of the population last year.
It won't make it, and it won't make it. It's
you
not a
think
drop in
that's
the bucket.
great.
It won't, and
But-
believe it or not, as a channel named Loads of Bacon, that's one I'm interested in. I'm hoping to be hog hunting again here in about a month, and I can tell you, walking the property that they destroy, the property that I hunt for hogs has horses, it has cattle, the agriculture, and these hogs are decimating those things.
We are always. I'm over here with my son. We are always invitable for hog hunting. I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, we're always. I want you to know that I am a vegetarian. I'm a vegetarian, but I'm a vegetarian by proxy.
Yeah.
Indeed.
The cow eats the vegetables, the deer eats the vegetables, the hog eats the vegetables, I eat the animal, and by virtue of that.
Can we just acknowledge the amazingness that is the hog? I mean, this is an animal that can eat garbage like lettuce and grass and turn it into bacon. And that is amazing.
That's like a magical feat right there.
That's a proof of God right there.
That's almost better than King Midas, who could touch everything and turn it into gold.
Indeed, I can't eat gold.
Oh,
No, I can't, but I can buy bacon with it.
Oh, I had bacon this morning with coffee. Life is grand, isn't it?
Oh, I missed the bacon. I got the coffee. I'm all jazzed. No, I'm not talking to you anymore. What were you going to say?
just to bring it back to your channel, I really do think it's amazing because I think it's amazing that you're going to still fight for reloading. I can't tell you how often I'll have my friends in the garage. They'll see my dad's contraptions and they'll say, "What is that?" I'm like, "It's the most cathartic thing you can ever do."
That is a
and they're
fact.
like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Here," and I'll show them and I'll reload and say, "Wow, this is kind of hard." I'm like, "Well, do it for a while and you just find that I just reloaded 25 rounds or just reloaded 8 boxes of shotgun shells and." Look at the time. Oh, it's been 3 hours. I didn't even realize. It's just it's so cathartic.
I've got a bunch of little kids. I don't have property that I can shoot on that I live on. I have to go to a shooting range. And
Sure.
The range is only open certain hours, but I can reload at midnight
Right.
in my garage.
Right.
I don't have to pay range fees or anything.
I'm ashamed to say that I reload at midnight quite frequently.
The kids are
That's
sleeping.
when I have the time.
The wife
Everybody's
just went to
asleep.
bed. And I can process the day while I'm making my own ammo for a whole lot cheaper than what Walmart may or may not decide to sell me tomorrow. Right.
Right. Yeah, and probably may not
Right.
would be the operative choice there. Well, okay. So now the big question is how can I help you to get the word out other than what we're doing right now? What else can I do for you?
Appreciate this, and if folks are looking for information on how to make their own ammo, to lessen their ammo charges, to find a new hobby, I mean, reloading covers a lot of those things. But it's not just reloading; it's firearms content that maybe YouTube does or doesn't approve. Check us out. It's thereloadersnetwork.com. And let me mention, in addition, this year we set up a companion site for the community that looks an awful lot like Facebook. It's not hosted by Facebook. It's our server. But again, Facebook has not always been firearms friendly either.
No.
No, actually, they've been consistently the reverse.
Exactly. And so
you were being very kind. Well done.
There's an opportunity there for folks. I used to be part of a few Facebook groups where people would buy and sell and share things.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
There's nothing illegal with that.
No.
Facebook banned those things, and I think a lot of people assumed, well, it must be against. It's not against the law. If you're selling to somebody out of state, involve your FFL.
Right. There's a legal way to do it.
Absolutely.
There's absolutely a legal way to do it. Right. Sure.
I'm not trying to get around any legalities, but you can have the conversations with, hey, I'm done shooting this thing. moved on to other interests. Somebody interested, sure. So, we've got this. We call it headspace.
What a great name. I love it. That's
Indeed.
awesome.
And so if you go to the Reloaders Network, there's in the menu that says community. You'll see a link for Headspace, and you'll see a link for a chat on Discord server. So we used to use a program called Slack, and we moved over to Discord. And you can sit down with people there and have live conversation, kind of like the side chat on a YouTube live broadcast.
Yeah.
But you can share links. You can share videos. There's voice channels where you can get on and have conversations like this with other people. And we've had plenty of people, they're talking about the weather, what they ate for breakfast, but they're also talking through, hey, this load's not working out my firearm. Anybody have experience with this particular type of gunpowder, and why am I having issues? We've had plenty of that type of conversation where folks are mentoring each other for free on all sorts of firearms-related content.
The opinions expressed by the gun guy are always right, unless they're wrong.
Now, anecdotally is the only way I can't say that I have actually empirical evidence or anything, but anecdotally I could say that the reloading aspect of California seems to have increased. The reason I say that is that with the laws that came in recently about buying ammo, it's made it very difficult to buy ammunition sometimes. Or it's made it inconvenient, maybe
Absolutely.
not difficult. And then for some folks, there have been 60-some-odd thousand people in the state of California that are perfectly legal to buy ammo, but by virtue of the system not operating correctly, have been denied and not been able to buy ammunition. And at least at the moment, and every time I mention this, somebody will say, shh, don't say anything. They'll know. No, trust me, they already know. The cat's been out of the bag long before I said anything. It's just that's the next thing. Right now,
People have been
California,
reloading cartridges since cartridges
Right.
existed. That's not new.
California already knows about that. They didn't restrict it this first round. I'm sure they'll go after it later. But right now, reloading components are not subject to those background checks. So if you know how to reload and you have a certain cartridge or cartridges you like to load, a lot of folks are getting into loading in California now by necessity.
Absolutely.
And what I'm finding is the number of people who will send me a note or an email or whatever telling me they got into reloading by necessity and now fell in love with it is incredible.
And there's a constant conversation of reloading. People got into reloading to save money, and they still tell their wives that, but they long ago forgot that idea, and many folks enjoy it more than they do shooting. It's part and parcel. They go together, but the reloading itself is a fun hobby, and it's safe if you know what you're doing. It's pretty simple. You can do it safely, easily. Now, if you don't know what you're doing, sure, there's a lot of potential for harm and danger, but driving a car is extremely dangerous if you don't know what you're doing as well.
Walking across the street is dangerous if you don't know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
But again, this gets back to if you want to know what you're doing, now there's a safe place. There's a place where you can go to get some of that information because,
Absolutely.
as you said, the old guy across the street who used to reload, you'd love to ask him, he's gone.
Yeah.
Or Uncle Jim who used to reload, he's gone. Or great-grandpa, whatever.
I've been reloading for about 20 years. About 7 years ago, I started casting my own bullets. I learned how to cast from YouTube videos, primarily a guy named Fortune Cookie 45LC.
No, I've watched this, yeah.
He's out in California.
Now, is his channel still on YouTube, or was it pushed off?
So he's had videos deleted. He has moved. He's still on YouTube. He's also on the Reloaders Network.
Yeah.
And then he's moved some of his content to Patreon as well. And that's a whole nother story we probably don't want to delve into, the people's hatred of Patreon and those sorts of things. But
yeah, I understand and I appreciate the fact that Patreon has been a challenge for some people. The truth is they've never given me any issue at all. I've never gotten any slack from them. They've been a joy to work with, really. Anytime I need support or questions, I ask them. They're Johnny on the spot about getting back to me. I literally have had less than zero problem with Patreon.
Indeed.
So they not only have they never posed a problem with regard to the content that I support there or post there, they've never raised it as an issue. And anytime anything has ever come up where I had questions, they've been Johnny on the spot about getting there and helping me. So I know other people have had issues, but I don't have any experience there. So
and they're one that also I've never had issue with. I don't trust them 100%. Because I don't know them.
I don't know them either, but so far they haven't been an issue. When they become an issue, I'll do something else.
So I don't put all my eggs in their basket, but that's been low risk for me so far. being involved with Patreon.
Yeah, I haven't had any issues with them, and it seems to work. It does work. I'm not a shill for Patreon here, so
Agreed.
there are other options. I mean, if you want to go do something else, go do something else. But I do have people give me grief every once in a while because, you're still on Patreon, you traitor, or whatever. I'm not a traitor. I'm a guy who's using a service that works. Here's the reality of it, too, when you get into services like that. I mean, the equipment we're using today, how do I know that the company that makes these headsets we're using is firearms friendly? Am I going to run around and find that out before I buy a headset? How do I know whether Jackery that made the battery that's running some of the equipment is firearms friendly? Am I going to call them or look up there? I mean, come on. At some point or other, I have to operate a channel. I have to operate a business, and I have to understand that at some point or other, I'm going to be putting money in somebody's pocket that disagrees with me.
You have to live your life. I mean, let's just forget about that. It's an issue with just about everything. What kind of car do you drive? Who does your power? Where do you get your power? Where do you get your gas? Where do you get your electricity? What about your fuel for your car?
Let's just pick one industry where good luck finding a major bank that's firearms friendly.
You can't.
Right.
You can't. So, I use PayPal for our business. And the main reason I use PayPal for our business is, one, they're super easy. We've used them for, I don't know, we've been in business 12 years. I think 12 years. We've used them the whole time. They love us. If I need anything from PayPal, they're right on top of it because they see a lot of revenue come through us going through PayPal. And the way that they'll lend to us, if I need funding for this or that, they make it super simple and easy, and the cost is very low. If I needed a loan today and got on the website and applied for the loan today, the money would be in my PayPal account tomorrow. And I would pay one fee, and if it took me 5 years to pay it back, or a year to pay it back, or 6 months, or 8 months, it doesn't matter. I paid that same fee, and it's less than I could get from my bank. If I want to go down to the bank we bank at, or whatever, it'll take me a month, to get the money, or a week to get the money, and they want me to sign paperwork this stinking high, and it's a pain. So people say, why do you use PayPal? Because I got it. Why don't you go use a bank that's firearms friendly? Because there isn't one.
Right.
There isn't one. So if I don't have an option like that, then I'm going to use the one that's the best for my business.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I have neighbors, I have bosses that aren't firearms friendly. That doesn't mean I avoid them. I figure out a way to work with them.
I avoid all of mine. No. I mean, we have neighbors live across the street from us. We love them dearly. They do not own a single firearm, and she's astounded when she talks to me that we actually own firearms. And then when we were talking about it, and she found out I was a firearms instructor, she said, well, would you teach my kids? Because I want them to know what to do if they happen to run into one. And I said, oh, sure.
Absolutely.
Eddie the Eagle.
And I told her about the Eddie Eagle program from NRA, and she said, oh, she searched right now, where do I get that? Right? So, it's all a matter of having, you got to understand, different people, different strokes for different folks, and like Pete said, you got to live your life. There's certain things you have to do in life, you're not always going to have to a firearms supporting company that you get to deal with to do it.
And that's, to get back to the Real Orders Network, that's what we've done there. There's a lot of people, you should stay on YouTube and fight YouTube. Well, I've got to live my life. And I'm not going to defeat you. People talk about attacking and breaking apart Google. They just said
I love you, James, but you're not going to beat Google and you're not going to beat YouTube.
Last week they said Alphabet Inc. is estimated at worth $1 trillion.
I checked my account this morning. It ain't that big.
No. And as you look at it, who's going to go after them legally? This is an intelligence agency. They know where all the skeletons are in everyone's personal closets. And even if your closet's clean, your constituents and your loved ones, they know the skeletons in their closet. So while I would love to see some things happen with Google and YouTube, I don't foresee it happening very soon. And,
no.
And even if it does,
that's not my battle to fight.
It's not. It's
not my battle to fight.
There are some people that want to fight that battle, and more power to them. I may support them, and depend on which way they're going. But I'm not going to lead the charge on that.
And I think you, in a weird sort of way, you are fighting. You are fighting the battle, but you're fighting it in a way that it can be fought and successfully fought. You're moving the content from there to over here.
Absolutely.
And so, just like anything else, as Nick mentioned, there's so many subscription services. If you want to watch this show and it's on that subscription service, well, then you subscribe to that service. If they kill that show, you go, I don't want that anymore, and I'll subscribe to this one over here. And that's, I think, where we're getting with a lot of content-related issues. It's becoming really It's I want this content and I'm going to go here to get it, or I want that and I'm going to go here to get it. We've gone from the department store approach to catch-all content. I'm going to go to Walmart or Sears or whatever and buy whatever I want. And now we've gone instead to, I'm going to go to this store to buy tools and this store to buy widgets or whatever,
and
cameras.
the YouTube that we all knew and loved in 2015, it's not coming back.
Saving the Second Amendment, one episode at a time. This is the GunGuy TV podcast.
In a weird way, I don't know that that's necessarily bad. And,
Indeed.
From a content perspective, because if I go to a site that specializes in a certain thing, the nice part about that is that I can feel more comfortable that everybody that's on that site actually knows what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. So if I go to the Reloaders Network, I know that's reloader-centric, and that's where reloaders are going to go. And if I want to learn to reload and I go there, I don't have to worry about the content being off, because if somebody posts something that doesn't make any sense, there's a whole lot of people that are going to know.
Absolutely.
And it's going to that issue is going to get cleared up mighty quickly.
Yeah.
So to some degree, I think that the segmenting of information, it can be and is a positive. But it does mean you don't get to go one place and get everything. You got to shop around a little bit, and look around.
One of the things I really appreciate about you even adding the forum, just where I can, if I have questions, I can go and ask. Is okay, hey, I want to actually bring my reloads over to when I go hunting deer, and I've never hunted deer before. So, okay, so what should I reload? What do you think? What really works for you? And you can plug that in. I would type that up on YouTube, and I'd get ridiculed for like 50, 60 comments of like, you never gone deer hunting before? You call yourself a man?
Yeah. Well, and to date, we have less trolls there than you'll find on YouTube.
There it is.
Yeah, tomorrow?
That may not be the case.
Tomorrow, that may not be the case. I mean, who knows?
But if you jump on there, then you're going to have some guys that point out the fact that, hey, let's talk about the weather you're going to hunt in, because we've got a guy posting videos up in Tok, Alaska, where he just posted some things where he was shooting reloads in negative 50-degree weather, and they did not work the same as when he loaded them in the summer.
And you know something? As I've been shooting since I was 5 years old, and I'm in my 60s, and I would never have thought of that.
I didn't even think about that ever.
But truthfully, I'm just displaying my my gross ignorance here. I would never have thought of that.
Well, and so you may have or if you're you're working up your reloads in the wintertime and it's nice and cold, and then you decide, hey, I'm going to go out in the desert in Arizona and shoot in the summer, you may have a dangerous situation.
Well, yeah.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's a great point.
And so again, experience talking to guys about that may highlight those things before you go pull that trigger and say, what's going on here?
Yeah,
we see that a lot in long range. In long range shooting, you'll get down to the point where guys will have the IR thermometer to check the temperature of their brass before they put the round in the chamber. And at matches where the temperature tends to drop a little bit, or it's a little chillier than what they're used to, you'll see guys that'll have a pack of 5 rounds, and they're holding it in their armpit to try and get it up to a decent temperature, because it has a significant effect on how fast the powder burns.
That's crazy.
And if all you're doing is shooting a deer at 100 yards and the temperature changed 20 degrees, it's probably not an issue. But if I'm trying to shoot 1,500 yards and half an inch makes a difference, now that's a big consideration.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I just learned something right here. I didn't know. I feel like I'm going to school here.
Or in the worst case scenario, if you're loading for your trip to Alaska, and then all of a sudden you're down in Texas hunting hogs and it's 98 degrees, you may find yourself with some serious overpressure issues.
Absolutely.
And now it's a safety factor.
Yeah, see those, and again, those are another highlight reason to check it out. Because honestly, for a guy like me, I mean, at some point, let's say I move out of California, and everyone wants me to do that. But if I move out of California, and I'm in Idaho, and it's at -4 degrees or something crazy. I hope it's not -4, but it'd be.
And if you're going to extreme temperatures, you need to consider that for your factory ammo as well.
Yeah, and that's stuff that you can't ask that on YouTube. You can't ask that on I guess you can.
But the answer you get is not going to be constructive a lot of the time.
That's actually where we started with the Reloaders Network. Before the website stood up, a couple months before that, we started that live communication with each other.
Right.
And we needed a name, something other than, hey, come join us on this random Slack thing.
Right,
so
yeah.
The community came up with the name the Reloaders Network, and then weeks later, YouTube came out with the rules, so we just we rolled with it. We rolled with the name, stood up a website to go along with it, and we've grown from there.
Yeah.
It's very exciting what you're doing.
This is a community that I love. I love the topic, but I love the people that are involved with it. And I hated the idea that YouTube, at the push of a button, could disband a community of people and a community of interest. And so I said, I'm in a place and I have the resources. I can do something about that. So I did.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's phenomenal what you're doing. It really is. So. Well, let us help you get the word out whenever you can.
No,
okay?
That would be great. Yeah.
You're welcome to come back on the podcast. You're welcome to, we'll do this again. We'll do this again.
I appreciate that.
Particularly as you've got new stuff going on that you want to talk about. Let's do this again, because one of the things I'm discovering is that as crazy as it sounds, in an environment in which there's so much information out there and it's so easy to getting the word out for things can sometimes be really tough, because you're kind of trying to, you're almost like a guy shouting in the middle of a hurricane because there's so much information you can't seem to penetrate through it. So to the degree that we can use the auspices of this channel to help you, we certainly will.
Appreciate that. And not only getting the information out, but that people may have to change their habits in order to access the info that they used to have access to. A lot of people hey, I use YouTube. That's what I do. Well, if the stuff you like to watch slowly disappears, are you willing to change your habit to go find the content, or are you just going to find just now watch what YouTube thinks is appropriate?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the reasons I started this podcast was because of YouTube's behavior, and once I had duplicated, triplicated, quadruplicated the channel on other platforms, I thought, you know what? Video isn't the only way to talk about firearms and the firearm community and the things that we're doing. And so I started investigating doing the podcast, because I thought, there's one more avenue, one more way to get information out there that people can enjoy and where we can maintain, because you've called it a community a couple times. That's exactly what it is. And
well, you and I have never met before. I'm walking around SHOT Show with thousands of people I've never seen before. But I sat down at lunch yesterday, had a great conversation with two guys that I'll probably never see again. But we had some common interests. These are
you and I met yesterday.
These are great Americans that love our country. I mean, they like firearms and hunting, and we had a great conversation.
I mean, you and Pete and Nick and I, we met you yesterday. I mean, you and I have traded emails or whatever, but I mean, we actually met yesterday, and I feel like I've known you for 10 years.
Well, you've already invited yourself hog hunting.
Well, I could have known you 3 minutes and done that.
No,
that wasn't. Yeah, I mean,
that's
easy. I mean, I'm inviting myself hunting all the time.
I do the same.
Well, that's how you got to be a hog hunter. That's exactly right. Well, thank you so very much, James. I really appreciate your time and hoofing it up there to do this. I want you to please stay in touch with me. You've got my number now. And I think you got my cell phone number, don't you?
I do.
Okay, yeah.
It's on the bathroom wall.
Yeah. There it is. I knew I shouldn't have given that out. Now
it's under Jenny. Yeah,
that's where.
I think it said for a great podcast call.
Yeah, there it is. Absolutely. So please stay in touch with me. Let me know what's going on, and we'll do this again.
Absolutely.
This was
Thank
really
you very
great.
much. Appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you again. Have a wonderful show.
I hope you enjoyed the interview with James from the Reloader Network. It's a great site, so I will put a link in the description in case you'd like to go visit it. And if you are on Patreon, I want you to stick with me now, because we're going to get into the next part of the podcast, in which I'm going to tell you a little bit about my fun day at the range for the first day back after COVID-19, and the guns that I shot and the videos you can expect to be coming your way in the next few days. And we'll also talk a little bit about the book Dark Agenda, The War to Destroy Christian America by David Horowitz. There is a concerted effort, and has been for about 50 or 60 years, to destroy your constitutional rights. That's what that book is about. So I'll be discussing that in just a couple of minutes on Patreon. If you're listening to the public version of the podcast, the one that you can hear on your favorite podcast player, we're going to wrap it up here, and I do urge you to support us on Patreon if you'd like to hear the entire podcast, because the second half is always for Patreon only. Otherwise, we're going to wrap it up here. Have a wonderful week, and wherever you go, whatever you do, please be safe.
You've been listening to the GunGuy TV podcast.